guys, I wanted to do a real quick video today on something called Solumedrol, which is the IV form of prednisone. Not everybody gets this that takes prednisone, only some people that need it in very large bursts. And so not a ton of people take this, but I did want to cover it just because it does have something to do with prednisone. Some people do take it, and I did get a question about it. So I thought maybe there's more people that want to know about it. Also, I just really quickly want to apologize for the location of where I am. I'm in my bathroom. I have some little guys, and the only time that I have some quietness to actually do these videos is like when they're asleep. So incidentally, this has the best lighting and it's kind of away from everybody, so I'm not going to wake everybody up. So let's jump in. IV Solumedrol, or IV prednisone, called Solumedrol. It's also called a couple other things like Decatron, and there are a few other names. There's always many names for medications, but it is essentially a very large burst of prednisone. I have mostly heard of people taking IV prednisone or Solumedrol with patients that have MS. And when they go through a flare, their doctors might prescribe a 3 or 5 day course of treatment to help kind of quiet their immune system down and help with the MS activity. But people with autoimmune disorders can be on it as well if your doctor needs to get your immune system down very quickly. And that was the reason I was on it. I have been on Solumedrol actually many, many times. So I've had many infusions of it. The first time for something called Still's disease, which is kind of similar to lupus. I did have stints where I had it once a week, times where I had it in combination with other drugs, times when I've had it in those 3 to 5 day courses, and then a couple times where it was really life-threatening and I had to have it for 2 weeks plus. And so I've got some experience with it, so I wanted to tell you about my experience. So a lot of people, I think, get really nervous about getting medication through infusions. Like, nobody wants to take a pill, an oral, like nobody really wants to take that kind of medication, especially if you know anything about prednisone. You don't really want to put that pill in your mouth. But it's something that a lot of people do, and so it's not super scary. But I think when you start getting into infusions, people start really associating that with like chemotherapy, and it starts to get a lot more scary. But it doesn't really have to be, as long as you know kind of what to expect walking in. So when I would get an IV course of Solumedrol, my doctor would check my labs before I had the infusion, and I would get my pulse checked and my blood pressure and all that good stuff. And then they would get the labs back, they'd rush it, get the labs back, and as long as everything was fine, they'd start the infusion. The infusion itself of the actual medication doesn't take very long. It kind of depends on the person. But mine would generally take about 45 minutes. There were times that my doctor kind of made it go over like a couple hours because I was a little bit younger and a little bit more sensitive to it, but I don't think that's necessarily typical. I think it runs about 45 minutes to get the drug infused. It does take a little bit longer because a lot of doctors will give you a lot of fluids to kind of flush it through and really work it into the system and kind of get it off the organs and stuff like that. So that can take a little bit longer. So you can expect to be at the doctor's office for a couple hours when you get infusions. Again, not really something to be all that scared about. Just typical procedure. There are a few symptoms that are kind of strange that you'll notice with Solumedrol that you don't typically get with prednisone necessarily. A couple of these you do, but a couple of these are unique to Solumedrol treatments. One of them is a very noticeable metallic taste in your mouth as you're getting the infusion. This was something that I got literally every single time, and it was sometimes stronger than others, but it's a pretty strong taste. Not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of more annoying than anything. And unfortunately, it doesn't just stick around when you're getting your infusion. It actually stays around for a few hours or maybe even a day after. So you do, and not a whole lot cuts it, kind of distorts anything you eat. So I used to always eat like bland things afterwards because it would really mess with my taste buds. The other thing, a little tip that I had, is that a lot of doctors and nurses will recommend like taking some sort of like candy that you can suck on that just gives you a different taste in your mouth. There are obviously a ton of them, but my favorite that I used all the time were these cream lifesavers. You can't really find them too easily anymore, maybe just around me. I can't seem to find them very easily, but you can get them on Amazon. They're so good, and they do actually like cut the metallic taste out. So that was successful for me. So you will have that. And then another something that I would get was dilated eyes. So after the infusion, like, it got really bright. I'm not sure why that happens. A lot of people report that, and that's something that you can expect. So just have some sunglasses with you if you're driving home or something and it happens to be sunny. Not the worst thing in the world, clearly, and it does go away in a few hours. Another thing that you can notice is pale skin. I noticed getting really pale skin after I would get my infusion, especially if I had a 3 to 5 day dose of it. If I got it just once a week, it wasn't nearly as noticeable, but you might look pretty pale. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that you can get very kind of some extreme flushing, or I would have like a stint a couple hours after where I'd have really warm to the touch, red face for a little while, and then it would go away. Just kind of uncomfortable, but it's something to just expect. The other thing that a lot of people are a little bit more nervous about, and your doctors should definitely check you, is that it's a serious boost of steroids, so it can make your heart really start racing. So just be mindful of that and don't get too concerned, but if it really bothers you, definitely let your doctor know. The other thing that is not so glamorous that a lot of people report getting, and I certainly got myself, was like some sweating afterwards. Like I would, and it kind of makes sense when you have a racing heart. I would kind of like sweat afterwards that the next like rest of the day. So it's kind of uncomfortable. And then a couple things that happen when you take prednisone anyway. If you get a large burst of prednisone, you can expect to have some moodiness and some trouble sleeping. Maybe not even in the first course if you just get like 1 dose of Solu-Medrol, but if you get 2 or 3 doses or more of Solu-Medrol, especially like days in a row, you might notice you're having some trouble sleeping. So that's just something to be mindful, kind of try to keep your body calmed and try to keep yourself on an even schedule if you can. And definitely if those, especially with insomnia, because that's kind of just a rough thing to deal with. You're obviously kind of sick anyway because you're getting this. So you need your rest. And so if it becomes a problem, I definitely encourage you to talk to your doctor. There's no reason not to. Also, make sure you're drinking lots of water on Solu-Medrol and prednisone because it can kind of dehydrate you. And those are kind of the main things that I noticed. You will, if you're on it a really long if you're on it for a while, you will notice the typical prednisone symptoms like the moon face and stuff, but that is not every time you get it at all. In fact, there were months that I would get it every week. I would get a gram every week, and I still didn't notice puffiness or a lot of weight gain or anything like that. So it kind of, I honestly, in some ways, prefer IV Solu-Medrol to prednisone, oral prednisone, just because I don't feel like the symptoms are necessarily as severe. Again, that's with me, and not everybody is going to have the option to have IV steroids, and it's not really practical for everyone either. But for my body and for the flare I was going through those few times, it seemed to work very well. So last but not least, if you are going to get a Solu-Medrol treatment, if it's your first time, definitely just try to relax. It's not the worst thing in the world at all, and you will definitely get through it, and it is not something to be very scared about. Just be open with your doctor, have a good support system, and you should be able to get through it very well. And also you got to remember too, like these big boosts of prednisone should get you feeling a lot better really quickly. And that was definitely true for me. I started to feel a lot better very quickly. And that's always the goal, right? So if you guys are going through that, my heart is with you, and I know that you'll get through it just fine, and I'm definitely here for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me or comment below, and I will definitely try to answer those or get answers for you. So thank you guys so much for clicking on this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.